It's for a very, very small and very specific group of people who were affected by a particular set of old rules.
And here it is. This is the stark reality. Only about 3% of all Social Security beneficiaries are actually eligible for these payments. That means a whopping 97% are not. This single chart, this one fact, explains everything. It's why, despite the huge dollar amounts, the vast majority of people will never see a dime of this money.
So who's in that tiny 3%? Well, for the most part, we're talking about public sector workers. Think about teachers, firefighters, police officers in certain states. Now, the key here is that at some point, they worked a job where they did not pay Social Security taxes, so they earned what's called a non-covered pension. But they also worked other jobs where they did pay into Social Security. That's what made them eligible for both a public.
Today, we are diving deep into one of the biggest Social Security shakeups in a generation. We're talking about a massive $21 billion financial correction that's happening right now. We're going to cover exactly where this money is coming from, who's getting it, and most importantly, what you might need to do. So let's get into it. First things first, let's talk about what's already in the bank. This isn't some far-off promise. It's already happened. The Social Security Administration has already pushed out a huge $15.3 billion in back payments. We're talking one-time lump sum checks that have landed for millions of people. It's the first wave of a huge financial fix that's been decades in the making. But, the story doesn't stop there. On top of that first $15 billion, there's another $6 billion that is being sent out as we speak. This next wave is targeted for about 900,000 more folks whose situations are a little more complicated and, well, they need a real person to review their file. So, if you've been waiting to see a change, this is the money that's on the move right now. So what does this actually look like for you, for an individual person? Well, this number right here is probably the most important one for your financial planning. According to the Social Security Administration, the average one-time lump sum back payment is $6,710. Now remember, that's just an average. For some, it'll be a little less, but for a whole lot of people, it's going to be much, much more. Okay, so you're probably wondering, how on earth did this all happen? We've laid out a roadmap to walk you through it. First, we'll talk about the law that kicked all this off. Then, we'll break down the old, unfair rules that just got tossed out. We'll get into exactly who qualifies for this money, talk about when and how much you can expect, and then finish up with a super important action plan. So let's start at the very beginning. A $21 billion payout doesn't just happen out of the blue. It was the direct result of a major piece of legislation, the Social Security Fairness Act. And this law had one very specific mission: to find and eliminate two old rules that had been cutting people's benefits for over 40 years. The date you need to know is January 5th, 2025. That's the day the bill officially became law. And the moment that happened, it set the wheels in motion for the Social Security Administration to begin this incredibly complex job of recalculating millions of benefits and, of course, issuing these billions in back payments. Now, to really understand why this money is flowing, we've got to go back in time a bit and look at the two rules this new law got rid of. You'll hear them called WEP and GPO, and for decades, these two little acronyms have caused a whole lot of financial heartache for millions of public servants. Understanding them is really the key to this whole story. And what's wild when you look at this timeline is just how long these rules were on the books. The first one, the Government Pension Offset, or GPO, dates all the way back to 1977. Then the Windfall Elimination Provision, or WEP, came along a few years later. We're talking more than 40 years of reduced benefits. So that repeal on January 5th, yeah, that was a truly historic day. Let's break down WEP first. This one was all about your own retirement or disability benefits. So let's say you were a public school teacher for 30 years. You paid into a state pension, but not into Social Security. But maybe you also worked summers at a hardware store where you did pay Social Security taxes.
Big surprises are in store for Social Security recipients this January 2025. From early payments you didn't expect to a rare double deposit.
Big news is coming out of Social Security, and I mean really big news. We're not talking about rumors or proposals today. We're talking about a major, permanent increase to benefits that is officially happening right now. We're going to break down exactly what this means for millions of you.
So, let's get right to it. You've probably been hearing the buzz, right? Chatter about a Social Security increase? Well, today, we're going to cut through all the noise and tell you what's actually going on, because this is one of the biggest financial updates for retirees in decades.
And let me be perfectly clear. This is not a drill, it's not a proposal, it is real, it is a permanent change to your benefits, and the process is already in motion. We're going to get into exactly how this works, who gets it, and what the numbers look like.
All right, so let's get into the details, the numbers behind this huge change. And listen, this isn't just your standard cost of living adjustment. No, this is a significant, lifelong boost to your monthly income. And it even includes a retroactive payment to make things right.
Here's the number you really need to see. On average, we're looking at a permanent increase of about $360 a month. And I gotta stress that word, permanent. This isn't a temporary bonus. It's a structural change to your benefit calculation for life. That adds up to over $4,300 extra per year, every single year.
And that's not all. On top of that monthly raise, there's also a one-time retroactive payment. The average for this lump sum is around $6,710. This is designed to pay you back to compensate for all those years of reduced benefits.
You know, it's so important to understand what this money really is. It's not some kind of government handout or a bonus. Think of it as a correction. This is money you earned, money you were always entitled to that is finally being restored. It's just making things right.
So, the big question is, who exactly gets this, and why is this happening now? Let's break down who qualifies for this incredible financial boost and the long-standing problem that's finally being fixed.
This change is specifically for our public servants. You know who you are. If you dedicated your life to being a teacher, a police officer, a firefighter, a postal worker, or any other kind of state or federal employee, this is for you. For decades, you are the exact people who have been frankly unfairly penalized by the old rules.
So what was the problem? Well, it all comes down to two really unfair rules: the windfall elimination provision, or WEP, and the government pension offset, the GPO. The brand new Social Security Fairness Act has finally repealed these. For years, these rules have been slashing the Social Security benefits of public workers just because they also earned a pension. Getting rid of them is, well, it's monumental. And let me tell you, this is not some small group of people. The Social Security Administration itself says that over 3.2 million people were being hit by these rules. That's 3.2 million beneficiaries who are now finally in the process of seeing their benefits corrected to the full amount they actually earned.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about the logistics. So
Are we getting another stimulus check? Come on, it's the question that's on everybody's mind, right? Especially if you're on a fixed income. But what if I told you the answer isn't buried in politics? It's actually hidden in plain sight, in the economic data. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and find the one key trigger that actually makes these checks a reality.
This is the big one. It's the question we're all asking. After everything we've been through, it just feels like everyone is wondering when, or even if, more help is ever going to be on the way. Well, instead of just guessing, we're going to look at the exact same signals the people in charge are watching. It's time to see what might really be coming over the horizon.
Okay, so before we can look ahead, we have to get one really important thing straight. And, you know, it might not be what you want to hear, but believe me, understanding this is the absolute most critical piece of the entire puzzle.
And here it is. The bottom line is, it doesn't matter how many petitions get signed or how loudly people demand more help, none of that directly triggers a stimulus check. The one thing, the only thing that acts as the catalyst is the health of the U.S. economy. Period.
Now look, I know that might sound a little discouraging at first, but it's actually the complete opposite. It's empowering. It means we can stop getting caught up in all the political noise and start looking at the real data, the same stuff the policymakers are looking at. It changes everything from just, hoping for help to actually understanding the conditions that make that help necessary.
So, if it's all about the economy, what are those conditions? What should we be looking for? Well, this brings us right to the heart of what we're talking about today, the economic trigger. Let's break down exactly how this thing works.
The key idea here is something called an inverse correlation. Now, don't let the fancy term fool you. It's actually super simple. Just think of a seesaw, right? When one side goes up, the other side has to go down. It's the same here. When the health of the economy goes down, the chances of the government sending out stimulus checks goes up. They move in opposite directions. Simple as that. Think about it. When the economy is just humming along, jobs are everywhere, businesses are growing, there's basically zero chance of stimulus. And why would there be? You don't need to stimulate an economy that's already running hot. But when things start to slow down, when the economy looks like it's heading for a recession, that's when the whole conversation in Washington completely changes.
So what exactly should you be watching for?
Well, here are the big four signals. First, rising unemployment claims. That's a big one. When more people are losing their jobs, it's a clear sign of trouble. Then you've got slowing growth and contracting business activity, which just means companies are making less and selling less. But honestly, the real flashing red light to watch for is the Federal Reserve. When they start cutting interest rates, you need to pay attention. They only do that when they see big trouble on the horizon and want to make it cheaper to borrow money to get things going again. These are the headlines that truly matter.
And look, this isn't just some theory somebody came up with. The data shows a crystal clear, repeating pattern throughout recent American history. It's kind of undeniable once you see it.
Let that sink in for a second. Every single major recession in the modern era has led to stimulus checks. That tells us that these payments aren't random acts of kindness. They're a standard, almost predictable response to a specific crisis, a major economic downturn. The playbook is there, and they've used it again and again.
Let's just walk through it. Back in 2001, the dot-com bubble burst, and we had a recession. The response? $300 checks. Okay. 7 years later, 2008, the housing market completely collapses, triggering a massive global crisis. The response? $600 checks. Then, of course, 2020, the pandemic shuts down the entire world. The response? $1,200 checks. Are you seeing the pattern here? A major recession hits, and boom, payments go out. It has happened every single time.
But hold on, because if we look just a little bit closer at those numbers, something even more interesting and kind of wild starts to pop out. It's not just that they sent checks, it's the amount of money that tells a whole other story. Okay, so the first time, in 2001, the baseline was set, $300.
Then in 2008, when the next big crisis hit, what happened? The amount exactly doubled to $600. And in 2020, you already know where this is going. It doubled again to $1,200. I mean, come on, that's not a coincidence. That is a clear mathematical pattern playing out over 2 decades. Each payment was literally double the one that came before it.
All right, so now we're armed with the two biggest clues. We know about the economic trigger, and we've seen this incredible historical pattern. So what can we reasonably guess about what might be coming next?
This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If we were to face another major recession in the near future, would the people in charge stick to this exact same doubling pattern that's held true for more than 20 years?
Well, if you just follow the math to its next logical step, you double $1,200 and you get $2,400. Now, let's be crystal clear about this. This is not a prediction. It's just pointing out a very curious historical trend. But it is a fascinating pattern to think about, isn't it? All of this really leads to one powerful, simple takeaway. If you want to have a real idea of what's coming, you can pretty much ignore the political shouting matches. The real answers are in the jobs reports, the GDP numbers, and what the Federal Reserve is doing. You now know exactly what to look for. The real signs that history shows us come right before these payments. And here's one final crucial warning. When these things happen, they happen fast. I mean, think back to early 2020. In February, everything seemed pretty normal. By March, the entire world had changed. And by April, checks were already on their way. The shift from a stable economy to a crisis can happen in just a few weeks. When the dominoes start to fall, they fall quickly.
So, when you put it all together, history seems to show us that a major stimulus payment isn't really a question of if, but a question of when a recession forces—
Big news is coming out of Social Security, and I mean really big news. We're not talking about rumors or proposals today, we're talking programs. That means things like SNAP, Medicaid, or housing assistance supposedly would not be reduced.
Okay, listen up, because this is probably the most important thing to hear today. Anytime there's talk about big money payouts, the scammers come out of the woodwork. The Social Security Administration will never, ever call you, email you, or text you asking for your personal information to release a payment. If anyone contacts you asking for your info or for money to get this payment, it is a scam. Just hang up the phone and report it.
A few other important details from the sources. They claim these payments would be safe from most garnishments, and that your Medicare benefits wouldn't change at all. They also say you might get an official letter from the SSA, and that an appeals process would be available.
Whew! Okay, we've gone over a ton of information. So with all of this in mind, what is the single most important action you can actually take right now?
The advice is actually really simple and consistent across the board. Log in to your official My Social Security account at ssa.gov. That is it. Once you're logged in, just check 2 things. First, take a look at your payment history for any new or unexpected deposits. Second, just double-check that your mailing address and your direct deposit info are correct. Honestly, this is just good practice to do anyway.
This quote really gets to the core promise of these rumors, that this is all supposed to happen automatically. But here's the reality check. Since the legislation has not passed, these payments are not being processed. So the only thing you can and should do is make sure your official info is correct with the SSA. That way, if any real changes happen in the future, you'll be ready.
You know, this whole situation, whether it's a rumor or not, it really taps into a much bigger conversation. It's about financial breathing room and the hope for a fair system, which is exactly why these kinds of claims can spread like wildfire. And it leaves us with a final question to think about. Beyond any one-time check, what's the most important factor for your own long-term financial peace of mind?
Today, we're diving deep into what could be one of the biggest changes to Social Security we've seen in years. We're talking about a permanent, honest-to-goodness increase in your monthly benefits. You might have heard whispers about a big lump sum payment, but believe me, that is not the whole story. It's really just the beginning. Look at this number, $6,710. This is the average one-time retroactive payment that's at the heart of this whole proposal. Now, for some people, it could be more. For others, maybe a little less. But this is the kind of money that represents a correction that many feel is long, long overdue. And like I said, it would just be the start. So that's the real question, isn't it? Could a payment of that size make a difference for you? And what if I told you the plan is for that big check to be followed by a permanent raise every single month? Let's break down exactly what's being proposed, who would get it, and how this fix could literally change everything for millions of retirees. All right, to really understand why this money is even on the table, we have to take a step back. This isn't some bonus or a stimulus check. No, this is all about correcting what so many people see as a fundamental unfairness that's been baked into the Social Security system for way too long. You see it for decades. Two very specific and frankly very confusing rules have been slashing the earned benefits of public servants. Just imagine working your entire life, paying into the system, and then when you're finally ready to retire, you find out you're not going to get what you thought you earned. For millions of Americans, that's been their reality. So let's get into the weeds a little bit. The culprits are these two provisions, the windfall elimination provision, or WEP, and the government pension offset, GPO. WEP cuts into your own hard-earned benefits, and GPO, that one reduces the spousal or survivor benefits you were counting on. Now, the original idea was to stop double dipping, but critics have been saying for years that they just go too far and unfairly punish people for a career in public service. And who are we really talking about here? Well, we're talking about the very backbone of our communities. We're talking about teachers, police officers, firefighters, the people who run toward danger, not away from it. Postal workers, federal and state employees. Millions of dedicated people who were told that because of their service, they were somehow less deserving of the Social Security benefits they also paid for. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? This gets right to the heart of the matter. This isn't about giving anyone a handout. It's about restoring money that people feel they rightfully earned. It's about the basic promise of Social Security. You pay in, and it'll be there for you. For these public servants, that promise feels broken. And that's exactly what this new proposal is trying to fix. So how exactly would this fix work? Well, the proposal is really powerful because it has two parts. One part to make up for the past, and a second, even more important part to secure your future. You've got to understand both of them. The whole thing is centered on a piece of legislation called the Social Security Fairness Act. If this becomes law, it wouldn't just tinker with the old rules, it would get rid of them completely. The goal is to wipe WEP and GPO right off the books for good. And this is where it gets really good. The plan creates two key payments. First, that retroactive lump sum we talked about, averaging around $6,700 to cover what you were underpaid in the past. But here's the real story, the long-term solution, a permanent monthly raise averaging about $360 that gets added to your benefits every single month for the rest of your life. And to really get a sense of how big of a deal this is, the proposal calls for an estimated $17 billion in retroactive payments. This isn't some small adjustment. We're talking about one of the largest financial corrections for retirees in recent memory, affecting more than 3.2 million people. I really want to hammer this point home because it's the most important takeaway. The lump sum payment would be justice for the past. But that permanent monthly raise, that's security for your future. It's not a temporary boost. It's a fundamental, permanent change to how your benefit is calculated from now on. Okay, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Let's talk numbers and what this would actually mean for your budget, for your day-to-day life. This is where you can really see the impact and start to think about what this means for your financial planning. So $360 a month, that's the average. And for so many people, that's the difference between just scraping by and actually having a little breathing room. That's money for groceries, for prescriptions, for keeping the heat on in the winter, or maybe finally paying off a bill that's been hanging over your head. And when you zoom out and look at the whole year, the numbers get even more powerful. An extra $360 a month is $4,320 more per year. And that's every year for the rest of your life. Over a decade, that's more than $43,000 in extra income. This isn't a small change. For many, it would be a true lifeline. Now, this is a question I see all the time, and it's a really smart one. People wonder, okay, if I get this new raise, does that mean I don't get my normal cost of living adjustment, my COLA? Let's clear that up right now. The answer is a big, resounding no. It doesn't negatively affect your CLA. In fact, it makes your future CLAs even bigger. See, future COLA increases would be applied to your new higher base benefit. Think about it. A 3% COLA on an $1,800 benefit is $54, but a 3% COLA on your new higher benefit of $2,160, that's almost $65. Over time, that difference really starts to compound and makes your benefits grow even faster. It's a win on top of a win. All right, now for the other huge money question on everyone's mind. What about Uncle Sam? Is he going to be taking a slice of this new income? It's a major concern, and rightly so, especially when you're on a fixed income. And here's some more fantastic news from the proposal. For the vast majority of people receiving Social Security, this new money would likely be completely tax-free. Your benefits only become taxable once your total income goes over certain thresholds, which you can see right here. Since most beneficiaries fall below these limits, those new payments would be all yours to keep. And this is so important. The proposal includes some really strong protections for your other benefits. The whole plan is designed to help you, not hurt you. So this new income wouldn't count against you for things like SNAP or Medicaid for at least a year. And it also wouldn't jack up your Medicare premiums. The goal is simple. Let you keep the extra cash without taking away any of your other vital support. Okay, so you know what the payment would be, you know why you'd be getting it. Now let's get practical. Let's talk logistics. How and when would this money actually get to you?
This is probably the most critical piece of logistical information I can give you. If a change like this happens, it will be 100% automatic. You will not have to apply, you won't have to fill out forms or call anyone. The Social Security Administration already knows who's affected. Any real payment would simply show up in your account. And that's a really important thing to remember when we talk about scams in a minute.
And your new higher monthly payment, it would follow the exact same schedule you already know. It's all based on your birthday. So if you always get your payment on the third Wednesday of the month, guess what? You'll still get it then. It'll just be a bigger amount. Nothing changes about your payment date. The money would arrive through whatever method you currently use. Direct deposit or a direct express card is by far the fastest and safest way. If you still get paper checks in the mail, just be aware they can take an extra week, maybe even 2, to arrive. The only thing you might need to do is make sure your information is up to date. If you've moved or switched banks, you'll want to log in to your official My Social Security account online to update your details so there are no delays. Whew! Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. So let's bring it all home with some clear, simple advice on what to do next and an extremely important warning to keep you and your money safe. So what's your action item? Honestly, the only thing you ever need to do is check your official My Social Security account online at ssa.gov. That is the one true safe place to see your benefit statements and get accurate information. If you haven't set up an account yet, I can't recommend it enough. It's your personal secure portal to manage everything. Okay, please, everyone, listen very closely to this. Anytime there's news about more money coming from the government, the scammers come crawling out of the woodwork. So let me be crystal clear. The Social Security Administration will never, ever call you, text you, or email you asking for your personal information or asking you to pay a fee with a gift card or wire transfer to get your benefits. That is always, 100% of the time, a scam. So here are the red flags to watch for. If anyone contacts you threatening to suspend your benefits, or demanding payment, or promising they can speed things up for a fee, it is a scam. Just hang up the phone, delete the text, and please report it directly to the Social Security Office of the Inspector General. So, Let's do a quick final recap. The Social Security Fairness Act is the proposal to fix a decades-old problem by getting rid of WEP and GPO. If it passes, it would mean two payments, a big retroactive lump sum and a permanent monthly raise. Any real program like this would be totally automatic and your other benefits would be protected. And the most important thing to remember, always be on guard for those scams. This isn't some minor issue. It affects millions of dedicated public servants. You know, a lot of people still don't even know what WEP and GPO are, or that these rules are reducing their benefits. So please, share this information. Talk to your friends, your family, anyone you know who worked as a teacher, a firefighter, or any kind of government employee. The more people who understand what's at stake, the stronger the call for change will be.
And all of this leaves us with one last, very hopeful question. If a major correction like this can get so much support, what else is possible? What could be next? You know, advocates are already pushing for even bigger reforms, like a $2,400 a year boost for every single recipient. Passing the Fairness Act wouldn't be the end of the story. It could be the start of a whole new chapter in the fight for financial security and dignity in retirement.
So the big question, right? Are your benefits going to go up? Well, if you get Social Security or SSDI, you need to be paying attention. And this is especially true if you ever worked as a public servant. We're talking teachers, firefighters, police officers, you name it. The changes laid out in this bill could be a huge deal for your wallet, and understanding what's at stake is step one.
All right, let's talk numbers. The first thing on the table is a big one-time retroactive payment. The Social Security Administration would start sending out these lump sums, and the average payout is estimated to be around $6,710. Now, this isn't some bonus. Think of it as back pay, money you were underpaid because of these old unfair rules.
But you know, that lump sum, that's just to fix the past. The real game changer here is what it does for your future. The plan includes a permanent, ongoing increase to your monthly check. We're talking an average boost of about $360 every single month. This isn't temporary. It's a fundamental recalculation of your benefits that would stick with you for the rest of your life.
Now, I need to be crystal clear here. This is not some internet rumor. This is a very real piece of legislation. And signed into law, we are looking at the actual concrete details of a bill that maps out how billions of dollars will be paid out.
So why is this happening? What's the problem this whole act is trying to solve? Well, this isn't about some random stimulus check. This is designed to be a long overdue correction, a fix for what millions of people see as a deep injustice that has penalized public servants for decades. Let's dig into the story behind this.
So for decades, you've had these two rules on the books that have just hammered the Social Security benefits of public servants. What you're seeing here on the screen is the goal. This is the roadmap that the Social Security Fairness Act lays out. First, get the bill signed into law. Then, trigger a massive $17 billion distribution of back pay, and at the same time, kickstart those permanent monthly increases. This is the plan they're working towards.
So to really get this, you gotta understand the problem. And it all comes down to two acronyms that have caused a world of pain: WEP and GPO. The windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. Now, the original idea was to stop people from double dipping, but what ended up happening is that they punish people for their public service. Imagine you were a teacher for 30 years. You also worked a summer job your whole life and paid into Social Security, just like everybody else. But because you earned a teacher's pension, WEP would come in and just slash the Social Security benefits you earned. GPO did a similar thing to spousal benefits. The Fairness Act would get rid of both of them. Poof, gone.
And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. This isn't about the government giving away free money. The whole point is that this is your money. It's about finally letting people collect the full benefits they earned and paid for over their entire working lives. It's about restoring a sense of financial dignity that was taken away by a complicated and, let's be honest, unfair system.
Okay, let's get back to the money. It's really important to remember that we are talking about two totally separate payments here. You've got the one-time back payment, and then you've got the permanent monthly raise. Let's break down exactly how each one is supposed to work.
So on one side, you have that retroactive lump sum. Think of it as a catch-up check. It's a one-time deposit, averaging $6,700, meant to cover the money you were shorted in the past. But on the other side, you've got the future, and that's a permanent, lifelong increase to your check every single month, averaging an extra $360. One part makes the past right, the other secures your future.
And that monthly increase? Wow, it adds up incredibly fast. Let's just run the numbers. An extra $360 a month is $4,320 in your pocket after just 1 year.
Stick with it for 5 years, and suddenly you're looking at $21,600 in extra income. A decade out, that's over $43,000. And if you stretch that to 20 years, that single change would mean over $86,000 in extra benefits. And remember, that's all before we even factor in future cost of living adjustments. This really shows the kind of real long-term stability this is all about.
And I know what you're thinking. Okay, but what does this do to my annual COLA? Well, here's the best part. It actually makes your COLA more powerful. See, future cost of living adjustments would be calculated based on your new, higher benefit amount. So if your monthly check goes up by $360 and the next year there's a 3% COLA, that 3% is now based on that bigger number. It's like a snowball effect. You get the raise, and that raise makes every future raise even bigger.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about the practical side of things. What would you actually need to do if this bill passes? And maybe even more important, what should you absolutely not do? Let's walk through how this whole process is supposed to work and how to keep yourself safe from the scammers that always pop up.
Okay, listen up, because this might be the most important part. The entire process, from start to finish, is designed to be completely automatic. Let me say that again, automatic. You would not need to apply for anything, you would not have to fill out a single form, you would not need to call anybody, and you definitely would not need to pay anyone a dime. If you're eligible, the Social Security Administration's job would be to find you and send you the money. Period.
So let's say the act passes and you want to check on your payment. The process would be super simple and totally secure. You would just log in to your official My Social Security account over at ssa.gov. Once you're in, you just go to your payment history. You'd be looking for a deposit with a label like retroactive, correction, or maybe recomputation. It's very possible the money could just show up in your account without any big letter in the mail.
Now I need everyone to listen very, very carefully. Anytime there's good news about money, the scammers come crawling out of the woodwork. So remember this, the Social Security Administration will never, ever call you, text you, or email you and ask for a fee to get your money. They will never ask you to buy gift cards or wire money. Anyone who does that is a scammer 100% of the time. Just hang up the phone or delete the message. Don't even engage.
And what about the timing? When would you actually see this new, higher monthly payment? Easy. It would arrive on the exact same day you get it now. As you can see, the payment schedule is based on your birthday, and that's not changing one bit. The only difference you'd see is a bigger number in your bank account on your normal payment day. This is huge. The proposed law actually has powerful protections built right in. You might be worried, okay, but will this extra money mess up my other benefits? The answer is a big, resounding no. For most people, these payments would be tax-free. They're also specifically written so they won't affect your eligibility for things like SNAP or Medicaid for at least a year. Same goes for housing assistance. And no, this extra income would not cause your Medicare premiums to spike. They really tried to make sure this is a pure benefit, not something that costs you somewhere else.
So, let's just pull back from all the numbers and the rules for a second and talk about what this really means. We've gone over the details of the proposal, but the real story here is the impact that a lifelong financial boost could have on real people's lives and their futures. I mean, what can an extra $360 a month really do? For a lot of folks, it would be absolutely life-changing. It could mean the difference between getting all your prescriptions or having to pick and choose. It could mean finally paying off that credit card bill that's been keeping you up at night. It might mean being able to afford healthier groceries or having a little cushion for when the car breaks down. Or maybe it just means being able to visit your family without worrying about the cost of gas. It's not about luxury. It's about peace of mind. It's about breathing room. Passing the Fairness Act could light a fire and build momentum for even more reforms. There are other big ideas already being debated in Congress, including proposals for an across-the-board increase for all Social Security recipients. So this is definitely something to keep a close eye on.
So, when we talk about this $17 billion, where is it actually going? It's flowing to the people who served our communities for their entire careers. We're talking about our teachers, our police officers and firefighters, our postal workers who connect all of us, and so many other public servants. The whole point of this law is to deliver some real, tangible fairness to the very people who were hurt by those old WEP and GPO rules.
At the end of the day, this is about so much more than a check in the mail. It stands for something powerful. It's meant to be recognition for a lifetime of hard work. It's meant to be a show of respect for public service. And its goal is to finally deliver the fairness that so many people feel is long overdue.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with something to think about. This takes a big swing at what many people see as a huge, glaring problem.
What's next? What other part of the Social Security system do you think needs to be fixed? Your experiences and your opinions really matter as we all think about the future of these vital programs.
All right, let's get right into it. We're talking about a massive, and I mean massive, confirmed Social Security update that is already happening. This is not a proposal. This is not a rumor. It's a real legislative change that's delivering both a big lump sum payment and a permanent monthly increase to millions of people. So let me just ask you this, right off the bat. What would an extra $6,000, maybe $7,000 do for you right now? Because that is the kind of money that has been landing in the bank accounts of millions of Americans. And that's just the start of this story. So yeah, this is a huge financial update. And like I said, this isn't some bill that might pass. It's a real change already in effect that's correcting a long-standing issue for a lot of people. And here's the best part. It's not just one thing. It's a two-part deal. First, there's that one-time lump sum payment. Think of it as back pay you were owed. But the real headline here is the second part, a permanent for-life increase to your monthly Social Security check. Now, to really get why this is such a big deal, we have to take a quick look back at two old rules that were, frankly, just unfair. For decades, these provisions have penalized some of our country's most dedicated public servants. They're called the Windfall Elimination Provision, or WEP, and the Government Pension Offset, GPO. Now, those names sound complicated, I know. But what they did was simple, and not in a good way. They slashed the Social Security benefits of public workers, just because they also had a pension from their government job. And this quote right here, it just hits so hard. I mean, can you imagine it? You give 30, 40 years of your life to your community. You pay into the system just like everybody else. And then you retire, and you're told, sorry, you're not getting what you earned. It felt like a total betrayal for so many people. So who are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about our neighbors, our community heroes, teachers, firefighters, police officers, postal workers, a whole range of state and federal employees who had a public pension. These are the folks who were getting shortchanged for years. But now, finally, that system has been corrected. The law that fixed this, the Social Security Fairness Act, got rid of WEP and GPO for good. And that's what's triggering this incredible two-part benefit increase. It's all about restoring the money these public servants were always supposed to get. Okay, let's talk numbers. That first part, the retroactive lump sum payment, on average, it's been about $6,710 per person. That's a huge chunk of change, calculated to make up for all those years of underpayments. But that lump sum is just the beginning. The second part, and you could argue the more important part, is that permanent monthly increase. On average, people are seeing about $360 added to their check every single month. And I really need to stress this point. This is permanent, for life. This isn't a temporary stimulus that goes away. This is a structural change to your benefits. You get this higher payment every month for the rest of your life. So let's do the math on that for a second. An extra $360 a month, that adds up to $4,320 in extra income every year. Over 10 years, that's more than $43,000. That is life-changing money. Oh, and here's another key detail that makes this even better. This new higher amount is completely separate from your annual cost of living adjustment, the COLA. In fact, it actually makes your future COLAs even bigger because that percentage increase will be calculated on top of your new higher base benefit. So you're probably asking, okay, this is great, but how does it all work? How does this money actually get to me? Let's walk through the mechanics because it's designed to be incredibly simple. And here is the absolute best news of all. It is completely automatic. You don't have to apply. You don't have to fill out a single form. You don't have to call anyone. The Social Security Administration automatically identifies everyone affected and recalculates their benefits. It just happens. Your new higher monthly payment will just show up on your regularly scheduled day. You know the drill. If your birthday is between the 1st and the 10th, you get paid on the 2nd Wednesday. If it's the 11th through the 20th, it's the 3rd Wednesday, and for later birthdays, it's the 4th. The only thing that changes is the amount in your bank account is bigger. Now, you might be worried, okay, but will this extra money mess up my other benefits? That's a totally fair question. And the good news is they thought about that. While your income goes up, this change is designed so it does not cause your Medicare premiums to spike. And for at least 12 months, it won't affect your eligibility for other crucial programs like SNAP or housing assistance. And what about taxes? That's always the big question, right? Well, for the vast majority of people, this extra income is tax-free. Social Security benefits only start getting taxed if you have a lot of other income coming in, over 25 grand for a single person or 32 grand for a couple. So for most retirees, every extra penny is yours to keep. All right, so with all this information, what should you do right now? Let's cover how you can check on your own situation and, most importantly, how to protect yourself from the scammers that always pop up when there's good news like this. It's super simple. Just 3 things to do. First, log into your official My Social Security account over at ssa.gov. That is your secure home for all your info. Second, just review your payment history. Look for a deposit that might be labeled retroactive or correction. And third, it's always a good idea to make sure your bank account and mailing address are up to date. Okay, I need you to listen to this very, very carefully. Scam warning. Anytime there's talk of new government payments, the crooks come out to play. Remember, the Social Security Administration will never, and I repeat, never, call you, text you, or email you asking for money or personal info to release your benefits. If you get a message like that, it is a 100% scam. Hang up the phone, delete the text. So let's do a super quick recap. The Social Security Fairness Act fixed a huge problem by getting rid of WEP and GPO. That means a lump sum back payment and a permanent monthly raise, averaging around $360 a month. It's all automatic, no application needed, it's tax-free for most, and the only safe place to check your status is your myssa.gov account. And please, please beware of scams. You know, fixing this was a monumental step in correcting a past injustice. But the bigger conversation about retirement security in America is far from over. So it leaves us with this big question to think about. Looking ahead, what do you think is the single most important reform Social Security needs next to make sure every single retiree can live with dignity?
We're going to be breaking down a huge proposed change to Social Security that could impact millions of public servants. We'll get into what this change is, who it affects, and what it could really mean for your monthly check. And just so you know, this isn't just some rumor floating around, it's a major legislative push. All right, let's get right into it.
So I'm sure you've heard the buzz online about a big Social Security increase for certain folks. And you're probably wondering, is this for real, or is it just another one of those things that sounds too good to be true? Well, we're here to cut through the noise and explain exactly what this proposed law would mean if it passes.
Now, what we're talking about here is not some temporary stimulus check. If this goes through, it would be a permanent, structural change to your monthly benefits. Think of it as a long overdue correction, a way to finally put the money you earned back into your pocket.
Let's start with the part everyone cares about most, the money. Because this update would come in 2 really powerful ways. First, a one-time retroactive payment to make up for past underpayments. And second, and this is the big one, a permanent boost to your monthly checks from here on out.
So under this proposal, the average monthly benefit is set to go up by about $360. And that isn't a one-time deal. We're talking about a permanent increase every single month for life. You know, that adds up to over $4,300 a year. That is a genuine financial lifeline for so many people.
And on top of that monthly raise, the proposal also includes a one-time retroactive payment to get everybody caught up. The average lump sum works out to a pretty substantial $6,710. This is designed to cover all the past underpayments, putting a big chunk of cash back in your hands right away.
And let's be crystal clear about what this money is. It's not a gift. It's not some government handout or a bonus. It's a correction. It is money you earned over a lifetime of work that, for a lot of people, was unfairly held back. This change is all about restoring fairness.
Okay, so the big question is, who actually qualifies for this? And why is this change even on the table in the first place? Well, this update is specifically aimed at a group of people who've been hit by what many consider to be really outdated and unfair rules that have been around for decades.
It all comes down to repealing 2 provisions, one called the Windfall Elimination Provision, or WEP, and the other is the Government Pension Offset, or GPO. For years, these rules have literally slashed the Social Security benefits of public sector workers just because they also had a pension. The whole point of this new bill is to finally get rid of those penalties for good.
And if you want to know who's been hurt by this, just look at this list. We are talking about people who dedicated their entire careers to our communities. Teachers, police officers, firefighters, postal workers. These are folks who paid into Social Security just like everybody else, but they got penalized for their public service. This change would finally correct that injustice. And listen, this is not some small niche issue. Over 3.2 million people are currently affected by WEP and GPO. That's how many people would see their benefits corrected, which just goes to show you how huge this change would be if it becomes law.
All right, this is the part you've been waiting for. If this thing passes, how do you get your money? Well, the good news is the whole process is designed to be as simple and automatic as possible. Let's walk through it. You're going to love this. The very first step is do nothing. That's right. If this law passes, you won't have to fill out any forms or apply for anything. The Social Security Administration will automatically find everyone who's eligible and recalculate their benefits. All you'd have to do is log into your My Social Security account at ssa.gov to see your new higher benefit amount.
And that new, bigger payment? It's going to show up on the exact same schedule you're already used to. Nothing about your payment date will change. If your birthday's between the 1st and the 10th, you still get paid on the second Wednesday. It's that simple. The only difference is the deposit will be bigger.
It's also super important to understand how this money would be protected. For most people, this extra income would be tax-free. It would not reduce your Medicare benefits, and it would not count against your eligibility for programs like SNAP, Medicaid, or housing assistance for a full 12 months. It's designed to be pure help, no strings attached.
Now here's where this change gets really powerful over the long run. Your yearly cost of living adjustments, your COLAs, would be calculated from this new, much higher starting point. It's like a snowball effect. A 3% COLA on a $1,500 benefit is $45, but on a new higher benefit of $1,860, that same 3% is over $55. That difference just keeps compounding year after year, meaning your benefits would grow way faster over time.
Okay, we need to get serious for a minute. Because whenever there's good news about money, you can bet the scammers are not far behind. It is absolutely critical that we talk about how to protect yourself, because criminals will try to take advantage of this.
I need you to hear this loud and clear. The Social Security Administration will never, ever call, text, or email you asking for money. They will never ask you to pay a fee, buy gift cards, or wire them money to unlock or speed up your payment. Your benefits are yours, period. Anyone who says otherwise is a scammer. End of story.
So here's exactly what to watch out for. Scammers love to create panic. They'll threaten to suspend your Social Security number, or they'll promise to get you your money faster if you just pay them a small fee. They might ask for personal info over the phone. Just remember, the real SSA only communicates through official mail or your secure online portal. So, hang up the phone, delete the text. And if you do get one of these scam calls or texts, don't just ignore it, report it by going to the Office of the Inspector General's website at oig.ssa.gov. You can help protect somebody else from becoming a victim. It's a really simple, powerful way to fight back.
All right, we've gone through the numbers, the rules, and the warnings. Now let's bring this all back home and talk about what this change could actually mean for your day-to-day life, because this is about so much more than just a number in a bank account.
I mean, what does an extra $360 a month really do? For a lot of people, it would be life-changing. It could mean finally affording prescriptions you've had to go without. It could mean putting more food on the table. It's the peace of mind of having an emergency fund, or the freedom to finally pay down some debt. It's gas money to visit the grandkids. This isn't about luxury, this is about dignity.
And ultimately, that's what this is all about. For decades, a broken system has basically told millions of public servants that their work didn't fully count. This payment, and the permanent raise that would follow, would be the system finally saying, we see you, we value you, and we're making it right. It would be financial justice, and it's long, long overdue.
This proposed law is a huge step toward fixing something that's been wrong for decades. It proves that change really is possible. And it leaves us with a really important question. Now that this injustice is finally being addressed, what's the next big challenge for Social Security to tackle to make sure every American has a secure and dignified retirement? We're talking about a Social Security update that is, and I'm not exaggerating here, one of the biggest we've seen in a long, long time. And listen, this isn't some proposal or a rumor. This is a confirmed change that's already rolling out, and it involves both a one-time lump sum payment and a permanent boost to your monthly benefits. We're going to break down exactly what this means for you right now.
So let me just ask you, right off the bat, could you use an extra $6,710 right now? Because that is the average one-time retroactive payment that has started landing in millions of Americans' bank accounts. Now, this isn't some kind of bonus or a stimulus check. Nope, this is a correction for money you were already owed, and believe it or not, it's just the beginning.
I want to be crystal clear about this. This is not speculation.
This is an official legislative change. It's been signed into law, and it is in effect as we speak. The Social Security Administration has confirmed it, and the money, we're talking over $17 billion so far, is being paid out. This is a real structural change to your benefits.
So here's the crucial part that makes this update so incredibly powerful. It's a two-part deal. First, you've got that one-time lump sum which is designed to make up for the money you were underpaid in the past. But the second part, and you could argue this is the most important piece, is a permanent, lifelong increase to your monthly Social Security check. Now, to really understand why this is such a big deal, we have to look back at the problem it solves. You see, for decades, a couple of rules, provisions they called them, were penalizing millions of hardworking Americans. A new law has finally fixed that injustice. So let's take a quick look at those old, unfair rules.
These two rules had names: the windfall elimination provision, or WEP for short, and the government pension offset, or GPO. And what they did was slash the Social Security benefits for folks who also earned a pension from public service, jobs where they didn't pay Social Security taxes. Basically, the system was set up in a way that punished them for their dedication to our communities. It's wild, right?
You can just feel the frustration in this sentiment. Imagine it for yourself. You give 30, maybe 40 years of your life to serving others, you pay into Social Security from other jobs you've had, and then you get to retirement and find out your earned benefits are being cut. It just felt fundamentally unfair because, well, for so many people, it was.
So who are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about the people who are the backbone of our communities. Teachers who shaped generations of kids. Firefighters and police officers who ran towards danger when everyone else ran away. Postal workers who literally connect our entire country. And millions of other state and federal employees. These are the people who are systematically being shortchanged for decades.
But now, finally, the system is making it right. The Social Security Fairness Act